This is the North End. This is the North End.
My name is Luke and I'm here with the North End podcast. As you may or may not have seen, we are trying to do these weekly updates for your fantasy suggestions and predictions. Now, before we get started, big shout out to my awesome jersey, Bangkok FC. Have a look at that bad boy. Beautiful. Or is it just the model? No, it's definitely the jersey. Beautiful, love this. Probably never seen it before, but I just thought I'd show it off. Now let's get straight into it. Last week I gave you some great bits of advice. Lukaku, captain, 90 minutes, didn't score any goals, didn't assist. Really got away from me. But who would have predicted that? You know, you can't always win. But I'm going to try and make it up to you this week. Some really interesting games to consider and upcoming games to consider. So 3 real standouts for me is City, Man City have Burnley, Brighton and then Crystal Palace coming up. Chelsea have Brentford, Norwich and Newcastle. Very interesting games there. And Leeds, next 3 games, Southampton, Wolves and Norwich. Now, not always as easy as it seems, the Premier League, but you've got to think what are the most likely. And those 3 are really the ones, are the next 3 game weeks that you should be thinking about. Now in defence, we're going to mix it up because I have some expensive options, so we need to get you there. Now with a cheaper option, I'm going to go with Ben White at Arsenal, 4.4 million. This is a real bargain. Now Arsenal have kept 3 clean sheets in their last 4 games. Ben White has played 90 minutes in every one of those games. And Arsenal look a lot more certain, a lot more assured at the back, and even all across the 11 than they did at the start of the season. So I think a really good option. Their games coming up aren't terrible, you know, and more importantly, Ben White looks like a pretty handy baller and likes to get forward, maybe ping a ball, maybe a couple of assists. Wouldn't bet out on that, but 4.4 million, it's a good option to have. Then we're going to go purely with Man City as my 2 suggestions. Number 1, Cancelo at 6.1 million. He's played every single minute of the Premier League this year. That's not going to change. Pep knows his man. He knows who he's got there. I'd also go with Diaz, but the problem with Diaz is he's dropped him a couple of weeks to play Nathan Ake, which, you know, I really feel for because they really are absolutely stuck at the back with options. And also John Stones returning now from an injury. Didn't really get selected because of the form of these 2. So Cancelo has to be the one that you stick with at 6.1 million. He is expensive, but worthwhile when you're considering that obviously City's next 3 games are Burnley, Brighton and Crystal Palace. Hopefully clean sheets, maybe not, but again, good options. Walker, Carl Walker, super quick, doesn't seem to age, 5.5 million, a good opportunity there. 90 minutes played in his last 4 weeks, gets dropped once or twice, but it's still a good option. Chelsea, I'm not going to make any suggestions, but have a look. With those really easy or easier 3 games coming up, they've got to be looking at the likes of maybe Rudiger. Azpilicueta was going to be one of my main options this week, but he's just played 90 minutes and a big tournament in the UEFA, and obviously might want to rest him a little bit. Now we roll into the midfield. So Son is my, well, I'm not going to say my number 1, but this week he's probably my number 1 pick. He's 10.1 million against Newcastle. They're leaking in goals at the back. And Son has been reaping the benefits of the reward this season. He got 2 assists and really was just the standout player against the Villa. Tottenham looking very average otherwise. But again, he looks like the guy who's going to do some stuff. Kane is still wobbling. Son 10.1 million. Now another expensive player, but one that you really should be thinking of as we go forward in the next couple of game weeks, is Kevin De Bruyne. Very frustrated with his elimination for the UEFA tournament, understandably so. He's world class and yet he can't seem to win anything international. 10.9 million. It is a lot of money, but he is going to be a steadfast in this City team. He's off the injuries, he looks healthy. I don't think he's coming in with any other issues, and we know this is one of the biggest point scorers of the last 4 seasons. You know, he's up there with the Salahs, he's up there with all those guys, and Aubameyang until, you know, previously, but he really does everything. Man of the match awards, assistant goals, he always looks dangerous. Now, if you need a cheaper option, it pains me to say, but Jack Grealish, 7.9 million, has not really delivered what a lot of people thought he might, but Pep Guardiola really likes him in that team and he is playing well. They're also without Gabriel Jesus, who's still injured, and they've just announced that Ferran Torres is out for 4 to 6 weeks. So that is going to open up opportunities. I would be very surprised if Grealish doesn't start and play most of the next 2 or 3 games. So again, you know, we know how he likes to get forward on that wing. He links up well. But for me, De Bruyne is more of that deadly pass into the middle to win those games and win those goals. So Kevin De Bruyne. As a cheap option, if you need to save a bit of money though, ANDROS TOWNSEND, mentioned for a number of weeks. Every fantasy parties or whatever is talking about him now, and you can see why. 5.6 million, 2.2 million cheaper than Gray, and with an incredible return. He scored 2 in his last 2 games, and he's the 4th most influential midfielder in the ICT index, which is what they rate the influential creativity of these players. So even the Premier League is saying, hey, this guy is really one to watch. And Everton's upcoming games, not super easy, but again, nothing too crazy. He's your cheaper option if you need to bring that money out to bring that premium player like your De Bruyne or your Son. Up front, 2 very quick options. Number 1 is HWANG for Wolves, 5.6 million for a striker, and one that is starting and playing is unbelievable. He scored 3 goals in his last 4 appearances. One was from I think a 23-minute appearance at the start of the season. So we've seen how good he is. Last week he absolutely lit it on fire. I think he scored 2, Jimenez assisting the other 2. So Jimenez is a good option, but HWANG is I think 2.2 million cheaper than Jimenez. And he looks like he's going to play, and he's got a lot to his game. Like Shearer's raving about him on Match of the Day, and you can see why. He's strong, he moves the ball well, he's quick, he's got a great eye for goal. Really must be a good option. And their fixture list isn't bad. Local derby with Villa this week, then you've got Leeds, and then you've got Everton. So opportunity to score, leaky defences in Leeds. Everton not certainly amazing at the back, so a good option. And one last shout, I can't even believe I'm going to say this, Timo Werner. Timo Werner, you know, he's just a little lad on pick here. I think he's 8.6 million. Now, I would never, ever have thought I was going to recommend Werner as a strike option. But Romeo Lukaku looks like he's picked up a bit of a knock. We don't know what that's going to mean. But when he comes back in, Chelsea have the easiest next 3 games. They've got Brentford, Norwich and Newcastle. Even number 2 and 3, Norwich and Newcastle, absolutely hemorrhaging goals at the back. So you've got to look at Chelsea, and you've got to consider the defensive options, but the strike force, Werner seems to have found where he works best. They were trying to deploy him as the main guy. He's just not the main guy. Lukaku he's that big unit of a player. He's still going to be my number 1 option from a strike option, but you can't have everyone, and 8.6 million for Werner is a very good price. So definitely have a little look at that, consider it, and he's likely to assist. He's linking up well with Lukaku, so give him a little think. Anyways, that is the options and your opportunities for this week's fantasy football and some upcoming weeks as well. Now, if you need any particular help with one segment, maybe you want to hear more defensive options, more strike force options, let me know. I will adapt it. And, you know, I'm a pretty chill guy. Look at me wearing a very crazy jersey in this big bright space. So there you go. I hope that helped. And best of luck with the games week. I need it as much as you because I've already used my wild card. That was really foolish. I may have been drunk. Don't do that. Best of luck, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you follow the North End podcast on YouTube. Make sure you check us out on Spotify. Share it with your friends. And make sure you check out this week's latest episode with Nathan Hans. Nathan is an actual professional soccer player. And we hear all these amazing success stories, but we forget there are thousands of young players that don't get the same opportunity. And maybe could have done the same if they had. So make sure you check that out. It's up on the channel right now. Check it out. Nathan was an incredible storyteller. And honestly, you will be shocked at some of the things you hear. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.